Yes, thank you very much, Sofia, for this soothing and interesting presentation. I'm going to bring you up to the stage now.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, how are you doing today? Where are you calling in from?
I'm doing great. I'm joining from Zurich, Switzerland. So it's afternoon here, and I'm actually very lucky with this time slot, I guess, just because many people, I assume, just kind of already either woken up or still not asleep. So I'm kind of covering wide geography.
Yeah, I think you're doing very well. A lot of people are chiming in. So, are you ready for some questions from the audience? And
Yeah,
we can get started.
let's
The
do
first
that.
question is you talked about Project Contrast and those, and you showed 7 contrasts, but what was the most surprising contrast that you have discovered?
Yeah, it's really difficult to decide because all 7 stories are very unique and kind of very unique by themselves. But I think the one that really stands out, and probably just in terms of the scale of the things, is the first is this comparison of apartment in New York City versus the entire country housing budget. So it's just like this, the scale is so obvious in terms of the how things are contrasting with each other. But another one very particular, I don't know, I found it very kind of sort of exciting in a way that I haven't seen it before. Again, since the High Line is sort of kind of a public park, and they have like the huge horticulture over there, and they have a lot of different plants. So just the fact that adopting one plant which grows there costs like 25 $25, and something that we have discovered as a part of kind of our study at on site at the Tashgaon slum. The people are actually also just kind of using different every available patch of land to grow things there, just to kind of feed themselves or sell them, and just as well as just this equivalent of how much you can get from one plant or one produce, one piece of produce, basically, in one place versus another place, was very kind of striking as well.
Sounds very, very intriguing. A more broader question is where do you seek your inspiration for these projects, for your personal projects?
Yeah, I mean, everywhere, I guess, is very simple question, but also to be a bit more specific. I guess walking, and I mean all sorts of techniques work in terms of just kind of doing the mind maps and mood boards. Obviously, there are some kind of techniques behind this, but also just kind of walking around places and immersing myself, or being kind of really deep in some sort of experience. Not for this project, but for another one. So when there was a first summer of the pandemic, and many places were in a lockdown, I used to spend I spent like almost the entire summer hiking in the Swiss mountains, and another project, like a series of prints about the Swiss mountains, was born out of it. And basically, just kind of this experiences of seeing something, investigating some topics. Like, I was driving a car, and there are lots of serpentines in the Swiss mountains. It's just kind of this visceral, this visual experience of having been on this road. Really, it was so deep and kind of fascinating that I started just kind of exploring this topic, and this resulted in a series of, let's say, the highest and the most curviest paths in the Swiss mountains. Yeah, something like that.
So basically, from everyday life and like just living it.
Everyday life and going places and just kind of looking around.
Okay, and in your talk, you said you had some hurdles to overcome. How would you approach a similar project in the future? What would you do differently in any future project?
So this project was, first of all, it was, as I mentioned during the presentation itself, it was very scattered in terms of time. I would definitely try to approach it in a more sort of concentrated manner. I would definitely try to collaborate with people, kind of expand the network from the very beginning. I would also try to be more sensible and kind of empathetic in ways that some of the research methods are constructed. One of the examples which I can bring probably here is when we had this on-site study in Tashgaon slum. We had a survey form. We basically run sort of like a series of interviews with the residents of this place. And one of the questions was, because we were kind of investigating this topic of contrast, or kind of the equivalent of coffee cup, or like kind of coffee to go versus meal in the slum. So one of the questions was, what do you think you're gonna like? What's gonna be your meal for the evening tonight? And when my partner, when my collaborator came back with the results of the survey, I was in shock. I realized how inconsiderate it was, because most of the people, they didn't know what they're gonna eat tonight. So so kind of being more considerate about things like that, kind of putting ethics as a huge component of the project. So those sort of things.
So more considerate about your data collection and like
Yeah.
the effect that it will have. Okay, thank you very much. The next question states, I love the self-reflection. It's such a good reminder about the impact and value of these kinds of projects that goes beyond the page that we typically consider measurable, like dollars donated. I find it really interesting how data was used in imagining scenarios to create stories. Did you use testimonial interviews of people in the slum of Bangladesh to add to the scenarios imaged through the data?
I'm just now trying to grasp this question and make sure
Like,
that
did you add some anecdotal stories to kind of like bring more personality to just the data?
Yeah, one of the stories definitely has even a part of the story is about a concrete person with a changed name, but it has a personal story to that. We didn't use any imagery or like kind of any photos as a part of the project on purpose, because like the purpose. So first of all, there is already another type of artifact behind this, which is a documentary, which has already this kind of very kind of concrete type of documentation behind this. So this was more abstract approach, and kind of also just a way to tell a story in a more generalized manner.
Okay. Well, everyone's commenting on the wonderful project. How do you plan to use the funds that you will raise? Have you made arrangements with anyone in Tashkent?
Yes, so definitely this is one of the big components of the whole project. I'm in touch with a few small nonprofit organizations there in Dhaka, in Tashgaon. But also, I still keep in touch with Simon Lister, who's the photographer and the filmmaker on the Tales by Light project, and I know that he's going there again soon this year. So we have kind of a preliminary arrangement to keep in touch and see maybe he will find someone on site. I know there is a quite strong chapter. There is a quite strong UNICEF chapter in Bangladesh. So basically, the funds definitely will go there. The question is obviously when we discussed it with my collaborator on site, who is an urban planner, who has a background in urban planning, and he's in architecture. One thing he mentioned, which I really kind of just recalling this now, the whole idea of kind of fund spending, and it probably wouldn't be the smartest thing just to go there and give those money just like that. It would be really great to have some sort of like a community driven or participatory design oriented initiative, and it would be really great to find a nonprofit organization which specializes in that. So obviously, if anyone has any ideas in this crowd, I would really love to hear and see some references. But just in terms of the general directions, this is what we are looking for.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's a beautiful cause. We now go back to a more of design question. What made you choose the degree of abstraction instead of a map that represents the actual physical space?
It's a good question. I will be honest. I had a very many a lot of different options and stages in this project. I think the very first stage, when it was more kind of exploratory phase, I definitely plotted a lot of data on the map, and so there was a map representation for sure. But I guess the specifics are kind of this analogy, or kind of the whole idea behind the contrast, and having the two different sites, or two different territories, which are kind of put together in one page, in one view, and kind of separated with this virtual railway line, kind of dictated the whole, I guess, the structure and the layout and the design choices behind. So somehow in the design process, I arrived to this layout.
It's just a natural progression of of ideas. Okay. Well, we already talked about this a little bit before, about when you said like we did all the questionnaires there, and this is about posting those questions. How did you design survey questions while keeping survey fatigue from households in mind? And following, what contextual dynamics did your team consider to make sure that interviewees were comfortable in answering?
First of all, it was rather a short exercise, so it was not like super extensive, I don't know, an hour-long questionnaire or an interviewer. But also, we definitely thought on, and thanks to my collaborator, who's a local person who knows how the things are there. So we were kind of trying to understand what is the best time during the day where we should go there. What is the day of the week when people, because there's some dynamics around this place where people go to work, where they come back, where they have some community time, where they have dinner time, and kind of all of those things where we try to put into consideration. But yeah, also just kind of be careful with the questions that are there, like be careful asking questions like another very important point. So one of the stories was kind of featuring the topic of child labor, which is still a big issue in Bangladesh, and it's kind of a public information. Everyone knows about it, but still is kind of covered up in a way. And one of the questions was about that as well. And obviously there was some tension in people's responses. So on the one hand, they wanted to speak up and kind of bring this topic and kind of talk about this topic. But on the other hand, they were not sure if they might get into some troubles just by kind of speaking up, where their children might go and work and kind of spend their hours like walking. So basically might be having some law issues with law. So all of those things are definitely like lessons learned, and yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot you picked up and you can improve for the future projects. And I think it's wonderful how you're so open by sharing all of these insights. I think that's really cool. Can you shed a little light on the next personal project that you'd like to take on? Because this one is going live, I think, in the spring. Have you considered like a follow-up or a next step you would like to take?
There are many things that are going in parallel. Well, one of them I just realized, just kind of hanging out with you, I might become a hostess in a meditation session in the rooms.
I think it will be very popular.
Yeah. But also, I have a bunch of research projects which I'm involved in as a part of my research activities at Pratt Institute. Another very cool project that I'm kind of started working on is in between art and technology. It's for the startup which is building a platform for fabrication of digital art. And we are working on kind of research aspect of it, just kind of how to assess and kind of visualize all this universe of different, like a creative project, basically. So what constitutes a creative project? What are the different artifacts behind an artwork? So what is the length of the process and so on? So this would be also I guess hopefully a very interesting project, just kind of because the domain is kind of, I guess the just the origin of data and kind of the I guess the domain is quite new as well. So I'm very excited about this one.
I think that all sounds very good. I think that's it for now. There might be still some questions we posted in the chat, so if you can head over to the docs to answer any of them or fill or add to any of the questions that are there, I think people will be very happy. If you feel comfortable hosting an unconference session to share your soothing voice for another half an hour, I think people would also be very happy. But for now, enjoy the rest of the unconference and the rest of the curated talks. And see you in the Slack and in the conferences. Thank you, Sofia.
Thanks, everyone.